bitter about what has happened to you? How your life has been spent?
Well, how my life's been spent, it's been spent... I mean, my life's been thrown away in that home, you know, when you look at it. 40 years is a long while, you know. If I'd have known, I wouldn't have done 40 years, but I'm not doing 40 years nowhere else. I'm not. I've done enough.
Lucy Baker is 75 years old. Altogether, she spent 51 years of her life in various mental homes. She was committed in 1921 simply because she had an illegitimate child. Today, Lucy Baker lives in an old people's home in the north of England. At her age, it's too late now for her ever to be truly independent. She came here 10 months ago on her release from St Catherine's Mental Hospital, Doncaster, where she'd spent all her adult life.
When I was 21, I had my first child, you know. Well, my mother forgave me for that one. She forgave me for it, you see. I had it at home, that one, and that's not to do with anybody. Well, I had a court do with him, you see, because I found him out, you see, so I made him pay instead. His wife told me when about him, because she come to court with me.
He was a married man?
He was a married man, you see, and he passed me as a single man, but if I'd have known, you know, he wouldn't have got me.
What did people say when they discovered that you'd had an illegitimate child?
Well, they felt sorry for me, you know. They didn't go on to me or anything. They felt sorry for me. They used me people. They said it was a shame.
So Lucy began to cope with life as an unmarried mother. She was working as a weaver in a local mill, and while she was at work, her mother cared for the new baby.
I'm coming.
Are you coming, love? You're having you look a smashing, don't you?
Yes.
But 3 years later, Lucy became pregnant again. This time, her father threw her out. She was sent to Dewsbury Workhouse, and there, Lucy's second baby was born.
It was board day when she was born. Committee day. Friday, they all board around me, all committee men. And they all come and they said, what another little girl you've got, Lucy? I said, I have, haven't I? So they said, yes. I said, how are you? I said, oh, all right. I said, I'm well enough. I said, I'm here, I'm not dead yet, I said.
Did the father want to marry you?
Second one did, yes. I could have got married, you know, because he wanted to marry me when I was at home. I took him to my own home, you know, and I introduced him to all my people, and they said, never mind, Lucy. They said, there's better days in store for you. I said, I'm hoping so.
Why didn't you marry him?
Well, I found him out, you see. We're going with other women. That's why I wouldn't marry him.
And how old was the baby when she was taken away from you?
She was 9 months, just 10 months old, just sitting up in a cot, and her little hand went like that when I went to Doncaster. I had to part, you see. I'll tell you why I had to part. Because I run away at Dewsbury, you see, through a nurse. And she hit me, you see. Well, that what caused the trouble. And it was over my baby, you see. So, anyway, I said, you're not in me, it's in me, I said, for my child. I said, I'll go to Dewsbury Police and tell police about you. And I did do.
How did you get out?
I got out because you couldn't get out there, you know. So I put nurse's uniform on, blue outside and white underneath me. I just looked like a nurse. Oh, I did look bonny when I was going out the road. So they said, what a shame, Lucy. I said, never mind, I'll stand my own ground. What punishment I get, I said, I'll stand it. And I was put on dry bread and water for a week, but I didn't bother, I did it. I wasn't like some of them yellow, you know, and don't do it. I did it. Some talks about it, never does it. Well, you see, I didn't talk about it, I did mine.
But they brought you back?
Well, they brought me back, but I got on all right with policemen. They said, he put his arms around me and he said, don't cry, Lucy.
For now, Lucy had to be sent to a place less easy to escape from, a mental hospital. St Catherine's, Doncaster is the area hospital for this part of the North East, taking mentally subnormal patients from Barnsley and Halifax, Nottingham and Sheffield. Lucy shared a ward with patients who were severely disturbed. Most, because of their low mental age, needed constant supervision. Whether Lucy understood what was happening to her isn't clear from her memories today. She says she was never allowed outside the hospital. She says she never saw her babies. Lucy was still in her early 20s.
Reach for the ceiling and down.
Today, if Lucy had had an illegitimate child, she would simply have been put into care. But 50 years ago, the law was very different. As an unmarried mother, Lucy was committed under the 1913 Mental Deficiency Act. The Act wasn't repealed until 1959. But by then, Lucy was an old woman.
Some were sensible and some wasn't. There wasn't many sensible girls there. There was most like low grades, you know. I couldn't help themselves, you know.
How
It was
about...
shame, though, in one way.
Did you, while you were in St Catherine's, try to get out of the place?
Well, I did do, you know. I wanted to get out. I owned up I wanted to get out. Do you know why? I'll tell you, because the place got on my nerves. They were always going off it, you know. Some of them used to go mad there. And one girl went mad, she kicked my leg, and I had an awful leg. I had to go to bed with it. It was up like a big balloon.
So what did you do to try to get out?
Well, I wrote to the high authorities, you know, the high authorities at London.
Lucy first appealed for help when she was 26. She wrote to the hospital's Board of Guardians.
Dear sir, I want to get out into the world and earn my own living. I have done my best since I was here, sir. This time I was out and doing myself some good, and also my little girl. It is such a long time since I saw her, sir. Can I have my chance outside?
Her appeal was rejected. 6 years later, she wrote again.
Dear sir, how is my little girl? I have not heard from her since I have been here. Would you kindly put the letter before the Board of Guardians? I want to be back in my own parish before the summertime comes. I think this place has brought me to my senses. Every mother has got love for her child. I shall be a much better girl when I get back, sir. Baby. Baby. Linda. Baby. Baby.
Lucy gave up writing. She gave up trying to get out. She spent the next 25 years of her life in this ward of St Catherine's Hospital, a ward for lower-grade patients. This is where she slept, in a dormitory with 49 other women, each bed 18 inches apart, with no room for even a bedside locker. But in 1972, society remembered Lucy Baker. In January, after 40 years in St Catherine's, she was found a place in an old people's home.
And it's a long while to do in a place as that, 40 years in a place. I might as well have done a month in jail or 2 months in. I'd have got out and I'd have been free if I'd have gone into prison, because you do get out when you're in prison.
When you came out of the mental home and you came here 10 months ago, what was your first impression of the world that you were coming out into again?
Well, when I got out of St Catherine's, well, I thought, well, it's like being outside, like being in heaven, you know, because, you see, I'd been penned up and never seen the world, you know, well, much of the world. Well, there you are, you do feel it, don't you? But the man in the car that fetched me told me not to cry. He said, never mind, Lucy, you've done your time for it. I said, I have.
And the world was very different. When Lucy first went into an institution, Lloyd George was still Prime Minister. The streets were still lit by gas lamps, and it was 6 years before Lindbergh was to fly the Atlantic. Today, she goes shopping with her friend Phyllis, who comes... And the world was very different. When Lucy first went into an institution, Lloyd George was still Prime Minister. The streets were still lit by gas lamps, and it was 6 years before Lindbergh was to fly the Atlantic. Today, she goes shopping with her friend Phyllis, who comes to the old folks' home once a fortnight to take her out.
She goes with me for all my dresses and that. She don't upset me or anything, she just lets me go with what I want, you know. I'm thinking of buying a new cardigan, but to go with that blue dress. I bought no end of things. I said, out of my own money, nobody else's. Oh,
What size do you want, love? 38. 38. Oh.
Could have got one about 5 shillings.
No, they're dear now.
They haven't got any. Oh, that's a white one, isn't it? That's a white one, look. That's a white cardigan. I will ask him how much this is.
How much is the cardigan?
This white one.
That's a large one, 175, love.
75?
135 shillings. £1.75 is £1.15 shillings.
£1.15 shillings? Well, that's right. What's that answer that to?
Yes.
So Lucy has a kind of freedom. Perhaps all the freedom a 75-year-old woman can cope with after having spent 51 years in mental homes.
This one? £1.50, £1.10.
£1.10 that one.
Eh?
It's nice. I'll have that one then. £1.10.
10.
4, 5, 6,
40.
7,
No,
10,
I don't want violet. I want to be
9, 10.
shortly.
Where is she? Hey!
There.
Where's that Lucy?
Here.
I want that one, £1.10. That's a pound. And you want 10 shillings, don't you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's right, that's a 10. Count it, that's a 10.
Right, look here.
That's right, that's thank you. And after I've got all my shopping done, and we go in a cafe. It's only a small cafe, but it's a nice cafe. A cup of tea, and I have a curtain, what you call one of these curtain squares, you know. I'll tell you what, you can get 2 cups of tea, and you know them curtain squares?
Yeah.
You can bring me 2 of them. 2. Yeah. One for you and one for me. Wait a bit, will I find my money, Phyllis? Yeah, that's it. Now, did it change back? And then I'll give Phyllis one, you see. I pass one on to Phyllis. Well, I don't like to eat 2 trays and not give her one, you know. It'll be good enough to take me out. And I buy her a cup of tea, so she can't say I ain't good to her, can she?
You like apple, Lucy?
Yes, I like apple, yes. Have you got me? You have one and all, Phyllis. Is that what's over? Thank you, love. You have one. Is this mine? You have. Come on and sit down. Haven't you got a plate? Oh, Phyllis ought to have a plate. Here's yours, Phyllis. That's your tea, isn't it?
But what if Lucy Baker had been remembered even 20 years ago, when she was still capable of looking after herself? What then?
Oh, I'd be happy. I could sleep and eat.
Phyllis Wood is 49. Her mother died when she was 6. There was no one to care for her, and she was a backward child. 3 years later, she was classified as an imbecile and sent to St Catherine's. But 5 years ago, Dewsbury Borough Council and the hospital authorities rescued Phyllis. First, she went into a residential hostel, then into digs of her own. She proved quite capable of holding a domestic job, and now she goes off to work every day, like many another Dewsbury woman. But Phyllis has spent 37 years in mental hospitals.
Used to wear boots, like pit, well, I was calling them pit boots. You could use them while walking, because they had them steel ear plates on, you know, you could use them while walking, you know.
What was life like for the 37 years in the hospital?
Well, the first few years was terrible, you know. If anybody ran away, just to get cold baths and that, you know. And
Or thrown into a cold bath?
yes, thrown into one. Well, it's a bit like snake pit, you know, as I told you before. Screaming and shouting that, you know.
And how old were you?
When I went there, 9-year-old.
And this was happening during the first few
Yes,
years?
we was brought up with women, you know, going mad. There were 2 wards there when I went there. There was just 2 wards there was. There was an high-grade ward and one for just low grade, you know. And the children was on the low-grade ward with the low grade, you know.
And what were these low-grade patients doing?
Well, there was some from stores, going mad,
But how are they behaving?
Oh, they were screaming and shouting and pulling people's hair, pulling their hair,
Did they pull your hair?
Oh, no, I wouldn't pull my hair.
You ran, did you?
I ran, yes. I was frightened of them.
And as you grew up, when did you start to think that you shouldn't really be here?
Oh, that was about, when I was a bit old, And I thought, well, if I could only get out of there, and try and go up for myself,
Did you say this to anyone? Did you say, I shouldn't really be here?
No, I didn't say it to anybody, but I thought it inside in myself. And I used to tell them I'd never get out of there. I was sure I'd come to die there,
And over the years, you still had this feeling?
Yes, I still had it when I was about 21 or 22, I thought, well, it's me making any shit because I've come to die, nobody's worried about me,
It took society 37 years to bother about Phyllis Wood. Today, she's on the staff of one of Dewsbury Council's old people's homes. Dewsbury have made a great effort to accept from mental homes those people from their area who could survive in the world outside. They've responded to the prompting of Dr. Michael Quinn, consultant psychiatrist at St Catherine's Mental Hospital.
Doctor, how many patients have you in this hospital?
We have roughly 500 patients.
How many of these people shouldn't really be here?
Well, the last estimate I made convinced me that there were at that time roughly 190 patients who did not require to be in hospital.
How many of this 190 so far have you been able to move out into society again?
17.
17 out of 190. The result of almost a year's work in trying to persuade local councils to accept these people back into society. From Barnsley, there are 21 patients in the hospital capable of surviving in the world outside, according to Dr. Quinn. From Rotherham, there are 23. From the West Riding, 56. From Doncaster, 24. From Halifax, 21. And from Huddersfield, Nottingham and Sheffield, there are more.
Alice, say grace.
And the same men along make us so infallible. For Jesus Christ's sake,
The problem is one of finance. It's costing Dewsbury, for instance, £25,000 to build supervised flats for the patients they'll accept. For Dewsbury, that's the equivalent of 5p on the rates. There's a problem, too, of assessing the capabilities of these people. How much of what they are today is due to their own subnormality, and how much to the fact that they've spent perhaps 40 years inside mental homes. And yet, remarkably, as people, they are due to their own subnormality, and how much to the fact that they've spent perhaps 40 years inside mental homes. And yet, remarkably, as people, they have survived. Alice is 75. She can't remember how long she's spent in mental hospitals. She was committed as a neglected child. Mabel was classified under the old Act as a moral imbecile. She came to St Catherine's 2 weeks after her friend Alice.
They took me away from home when I was small.
How old?
I don't know how old. I couldn't tell you really how old I'd be when I was taken away from home. I know I never went to school because I was always ill, and I got burnt once, beating towel off that line, and I was burnt when I was 4 years old.
Did you ever learn to read and write?
I never went to school, no. I can do other things, but I can't read and write. I'm clever in other things than that. But reading and write, I can't do that. I only wish I could, I'll tell you. But Mrs. Bell said it's too late. It's too late to learn now, she said. I said, no, thank you, I'm not going to learn now, I said. So be that. I never bother.
But when you relax, what do you do?
Well, I said, I do my embroidery. And if I don't do that, I go out shopping sometimes, and that. And go have a walk round Bald Beer once, but anyway,
You're going on a trip soon, I believe.
We're going to, all the sixes is going. But Mrs. Bell says, if there's any room, the other people, girls, what's joined that, they're going as well.
And what will you do when you go?
Well, we're going to a park, and that, you know, play games, I suppose. Oh, yes, I quite enjoy going. Oh, I'm all right here, but when you've been away so long, you just get fed up of being away so long. I know it's nice here, but still, you like your freedom, don't you?
Mabel is 76. As a girl, she had 3 illegitimate children.
How old were you when you first came into a mental hospital?
No, well, my sister-in-law took me when I was 14-year-old because my dad said that we had to go away. So having a child, so I said, well, I don't mind where I go as long as I get looked after.
You'd had a baby?
I had to look after my son. So,
what happened to your baby, do you know?
well, no, it happened at first, but the others were dead born when they were. There wasn't much in between them and I had to stay by myself.
Is any of your children still alive?
No, they're dead and buried, the others are, but there's only Jimmy that's living, that's all.
Have you tried to get out? Have you tried to get out?
Yes, I've tried, but they said it was no use because I couldn't go on my own. And they said it was too far.
Who have you asked? Who have you asked?
I've asked the doctors here and all the staff and that, and they said, oh no, they said they were all right where I am. And I asked them not, they said, you don't know.
Do you ever get any visitors?
No. Well, my sister used to come to see me, but when my niece got married, my niece went abroad. And I've never seen my sister for going on for 6 years since then. She used to come and see me, and my niece used to come with her. But now my niece went abroad, and she doesn't bother now. So I don't bother, I just carry on, and, you know, I'm all right here, mind you. But when you win, get fed up sometimes. I don't know what Mabel does, but I wouldn't like to be like them done out. She sits down that fireplace, smoking away down there, like an old woman, don't you, Mabel? You mind. Oh, I sit in here, look at television, see what's on television, and I do my fancy work. When I'm not to do, and if I don't do that, I take my body out for a walk. Go spend a bit of money.
In all these years, have you ever tried to escape?
No, that's the thing I've never done. That's the thing I would never do. I've been in those all my life, and I wouldn't do that. No.
Has the thought ever crossed your mind?
No, I've never thought about it. No. But I know I didn't like being here when I first come by. I wouldn't do that. In all the places I've been, I wouldn't run away from a place. Oh, no, not to get bad name, go in prison. No.
But you want to get out?
Beg pardon?
But you want to get out?
Yes, I want to get out, but I'd have to go out and get the days they come in. Right, not to go out, run off. No. I know I get depressed sometimes, but I would never do it. It's no good. You only get fetched back, put it, lock up your money, take your place taken away from you. Oh, no. I wouldn't do that.
Have you been trying to get away? Have you been trying to get away?
Yeah.
For how long?
A long time.
Do you think you will leave here now? Do you think you will leave here now?
Oh.
You?
Me? Well, I'm hoping so, I don't know. I doubt it, though, because it's no use.
In the 5 years since she left mental hospital, Phyllis has settled down. For 3 of those years, she held a job in a public house.
It was a long day, yes, but I didn't mind. We had a bit of money behind it.
And you had your freedom?
Yes, that's right. Well, like more than anything, wasn't it?
You waited a long time?
I waited about 37 years for all this.
And when do you hope to go into your flat?
Well, I'm hoping to go in soon. Be nice living in a flat, won't it? I'm looking forward to it.
By yourself?
And my cat.
And looking after yourself?
Yes. I'm cooking. Well, I'll have some friends and that, you know, but a housewarming, you know.
Been a happy 5 years, the last 5 years?
Oh, it has. I've told you, it should have come, this should have happened years ago, you know.
Because you always knew?
Yes. I thought, well, this, you know, should have happened years ago, all this.
Here you go. That's it.
The years that have been allowed to slip by have robbed Lucy of the greater part of her life. Yet Lucy is lucky, because Alice and Mabel and hundreds more are still waiting to go out through the gates they entered so long ago. Today, it's estimated that there are 10,000 men and women in Britain's mental hospitals who are quite capable of living a life in the world outside the hospital walls.